More than 1 in 5 adults in every state have obesity, and that number skyrockets among Black and Hispanic communities.
Yeah, this is actually the map that shows all non-Hispanic white adults with obesity across the country. Now, take a look at the map among Hispanics. Now, the deeper the red color, the more prevalent it is. You can really see a difference also among Black adults, especially in the South, but also in New York and New Jersey, where rates are between 35 and 40%.
Yeah, so the question is, how do we prevent these numbers from getting even worse? Joining us to talk about it, Dr. Deena Adimoolam, a specialist in obesity medicine and primary care prevention. Welcome back to the show. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about it. How has obesity prevalence changed throughout the years?
So it's amazing. You know, we know that obesity prevalence is increasing throughout the United States and the world. But when you look at these maps, what's alarming is what's happened over the past decade. A decade ago, there was 0 states that had an obesity prevalence more than 35%.
Wow.
And now there are 22 states that have an obesity prevalence of that much. So it's really alarming, and we need to do something different.
Yeah.
Okay, we saw in the earlier maps that we were showing that Black and Hispanic adults are more impacted. Why do you think that is?
So when I think about the populations that are impacted, I really think about access and what the issues are with access. So access can be many different things. One major form of access is access to health care. So people who don't have insurance. What's alarming is the number of people in these communities that have no insurance and they have no access to health care. Another issue is access to healthy foods. We don't think about it, but there are certain populations that exist in food deserts, which are places where there's no access to healthy food options. People are going to local corner stores, so they're grocery shopping. They're going to fast food chains for some quick and easy food. They're not going to places where they can get nutritious foods available.
So explain the difference between being overweight and obese. How could somebody find out if they fall into which one of those categories?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you look at something called a BMI, which is body mass index, you'll be able to find out whether or not you're in the obese category or the overweight category by doing some simple calculations. You just take into consideration your height and your weight, you put it into a calculator, and I would recommend anyone to do so to figure out what their BMI is.
Sure.
And you'll get a number which will tell you if your BMI is greater than 25, you're overweight. If it's greater than 30, you're in the obese category.
Now, is the BMI kind of across the board the same, or does it vary depending on ethnic background?
That's a really great question, and I think some doctors are tending towards going away from BMI and going towards other measures like waist circumference, for example, to see whether or not that itself is a way to predict whether or not someone is obese or overweight.
Let's dive into some of the health risks of having obesity.
So there's many different health risks associated with obesity, and I think we learned so much about this during the pandemic. We learned that obesity alone is a risk factor for severe COVID complications, but obesity in general is a risk factor for heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, many different forms of cancer, some hormonal issues like polycystic ovarian syndrome, and many others. And we're also noting that obesity has a large implication on mental health as well, depression, anxiety, changes with mood, and overall changes with quality of life. So it is a public health issue that needs to be addressed.
Sure is.
So if someone is concerned about their weight or may be suffering from obesity, what can they do at this point?
You should definitely talk to your doctor. I think it's one thing to go to a physician who notices that your BMI is high and says you need to focus on weight loss, but rather we need to talk about how to focus on weight loss. So talking to a nutritionist would be a good idea, and even getting involved with the weight management team. You know, these medications for weight loss has become really popular these days. So it's important to talk to your doctor if that's a good choice for you. And if it is, then you can get started on treatment and you'll be on your way to a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah, because at least we have some options out there as well.
That's right.
All right. Well, Dr. Deena, always good to see you. Thanks so much for coming back.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. For more health tips, you can follow Dr. Deena on Instagram, or information right there on your screen.